Bolton's there, Billy in. A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Ruby and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome back to the Andy Takes That Chance podcast, the podcast that isn't going to phone it in the last minute and leave you without, although it's very, very tempting to do so. This week in HD1, Charity FC made their triumphant return to the pitch. Bolton Wanderers, without an away win all season, visited the fair grass of the Acu Stadium and left with a deserved 3 points after Htown showed all of the aggression of a three-toed sloth in the second half. Lee Grant had the extra time on the training ground that he craved. Would Htown look better and more fluent for it? After 25 minutes of the game on Thursday, I don't think many people would have been saying yes. Mama's boy, Ian Kilroy-Silk, took his mother to her first game on Thursday night and has since been grounded, so he will not be on tonight's podcast. So filling in on the tactical acumen side of things is the Bear, Richard Kosmala. And Johnny Gillespie was also scheduled to be on, but he's currently running in fear of his wife's opinion if he leaves his pregnant missus to look after their currently projectile vomiting son. So bringing the six-pack instead of Johnny is Dom Howson. How are we both doing, boys?
No one's ever said bringing the six-pack to me, Matt, so...
We're about non-alcoholic beer beforehand, weren't we? So maybe that's the way we go.
It must have been a demoralising defeat if Dom's on it. Dom, you must be...
Kosi, stop it.
Dom,
honestly,
the reputation I've got, I don't need you egging it on, you know.
Yeah, it could have been even worse on Thursday. I turned down Dizzy penalties in Htown now. I remember Htown debut on Thursday, and they asked if you want to do Dizzy penalties. I don't drink now, so there was no way I was doing that. But just when anyone thought it could be any worse, could have seen me on pitch. But mind you, I could have done a better job than some of them. Could I even spinning around, man, at 50 years old?
Right, because I've changed Dom's name on the StreamYard thing there, so we'll call him the Dom Reaper from now on, because Dom usually comes on. Right, okay, so before we get going, I just want to take the time out to pay our respects to Jimmy Nicholson, who passed away on the 4th of October. James Joseph Nicholson was born on the 27th of February 1943 in Belfast and started his footballing career at Manchester United in 1960. In 1964, he would move to Huddersfield Town and be part of the Town side that narrowly missed out on promotion in 1966, but was then a key component of the side that went up in 1970. A classy midfielder, Jimmy played in 310 matches for Huddersfield Town and his joint 20th in the all-time most appearances in blue and white stripes. Jimmy played for Northern Ireland from 1960 to 1971 and received 41 caps, 31 of them whilst with Huddersfield Town, making him the most capped player in Huddersfield Town history. So time often makes people forget, but Huddersfield Town fans should never forget the massive contribution that Nicholson made to getting Huddersfield Town back to the top table of English football. Thank you to Jimmy Nicholson.
Definitely, and talk about forgetting. I thought, let's start. No, I'm not going to piss about here. I thought it was shocking on Thursday. We've got black armbands on, we've got the programme right, we've got a national stage to show our respects for him, we've got a brand new scoreboard, and there were nothing. There were no minutes silence, there were nothing. I thought it were absolutely shocking that. What a way to treat a legend for that. It was pathetic. I'd love to know why that one... We normally do a good job of like commemorating people who passed and that as well, but I thought it was shocking, to be honest with you. Why we're not commemorating Jimmy Nicholson, or at least a minute's applause or a minute's silence, or putting something on the scoreboard. There were a botched effort from the announcer. I thought it was shocking with that, and it was typical unlike Town, because we're normally good at stuff like that. So, yeah, that to me, that just... I was pissed off with that at the start of the game. Never mind, we even kicked a ball. I'm just thinking, what? You know, we should be doing so much better than what we did on Thursday to commemorate Jim Nicholson. And yeah, I think you did more there, Matt, than the club did at all on Thursday night, mate.
Yeah, look, Lee Morris wrote a really good obituary for him on the website, which you can check out as well if you want to learn more from him. But we're going to move on. So it's awkward, isn't it, moving on from something so serious to to then talking about football. But I think we'll maybe put everyone in a better mood before we get going. Kosi, it was your first ever visit to Htown, and I asked you to do a little bit of a review, and this is what you came back to me with.
Boys, the virginity is going. I can't believe I'm doing this. It's fucking happening. It's took a year or whatever, but it is happening. Here we are, Htown. This is my first ever visit to Htown. And obviously the conversation's brilliant. Everyone's on the phone. Scott Bradley. It's direct from Latvia. Got Mr. Quirk. Yeah, here we are. Yeah, we're all looking forward to tonight. Bojan has been in the building and he has said his favourite burger, his favourite takeaway is burger. Well, you know what? Everyone wants to know why I won't play, but we found out that his favourite takeaway is a burger, so brilliant, great insight. But yeah, nice place though, this. Scott has watched Albania for Jordan 2 on Tuesday, so he's ready for more goals. My Bolton mate says they're as bad as we've been recently, so it's all set for a 0-0. Come on, Town. You can do it. Up the edge down, up the Huddersfield Town.
There we go. That video nicely cut out in the middle there. I asked for a review of Htown because this is obviously it's something you always talk about and then never go, and then finally you managed to go. What did you make of it?
Yeah, we're good. You know what? It felt like the part of the stadium being dragged, and just like shoved, but very stadiumish, and that's all. But it was good. The only thing was the announcer, but yeah, Bojan on there. The $1 million question for me was why wasn't he involved? After scoring that goal the other day, he didn't look carrying an injury. So I'm thinking the answer why you're not involved. But no, he didn't do any of that, and they were asking him what his favourite takeaway is. So that was a bit odd. But yeah, it was good, and I'm sure I'll be. Backing and that as well, but it's probably as good as it got on Thursday night, to be honest, Matt. But it's a good facility, and speaking to quite a lot of people who's kind of changed their pre-match to go in there, and they love it. So a good place, and I'll definitely be back.
Excellent. Right, okay, so let's move on to the game. I thought that might lighten a few moods up before we go back to the gloom. You mentioned Bojan there, and I think it was quite. I think Lee Grant has this not so much habit, Dom, but he does bring someone in and then put them back out in the cold quite quickly as well. And I think that was the only thing that we looked at on the team sheet, and you kind of thought, where Bojan scores against Stockport, and I think Bojan he got a lot of stick, and I think quite rightly so in some circles. But I think he's been a lot better recently when he's come on. So to swap him for Charles was a little bit strange, but I suppose the thinking there, Dom, is maybe, Charles hasn't scored for Huddersfield Town. It's his old club. And stories are written like that in football where someone comes back to haunt their old club. And that was the only reason I could really think of maybe sentiment as to why Dion Charles has got on the bench over Bojan, I guess.
I'd throw another name in there as well. I'd go, where's Cameron Asher? Why was he not on the bench either? So he'd been an unused sub against Stockport. And so when Town are trying to play 4-2-3-1 and they started the other night not with natural wide men, surely Ashir, who in flashes this season scored a couple of lovely goals and would give them a bit of pace and directness out wide. To me, I find that baffling. Why you would have nothing against Dan Vost, but why is he on the bench over Ashir? Especially if you're looking for someone to come on and change the game. But yeah, Radulovic had to be on the bench, unless he had some sort of knock or was carrying something. I mean, that is just another bizarre decision in a long line of strange decisions that we've seen from a rookie manager, and we've talked about it before in the pod of where that's to be expected to some extent. But Yeah, Radulovic scored for the first time in ages. He's got his confidence up. He's got to be involved in the squad. He has to be. I mean, it's just like it's a no-brainer to me. And you don't just pick Dion Charles, who hasn't scored a goal this year. Like, it's madness. I don't care if it's against his former club. It's just like that's no basis for then having him on the bench over Radulovic for me.
Couldn't
No,
believe
it
it, Dom.
really-
I mean, you don't read too much into stuff. When the club tweeted out like game day or whatever, there were a big Bojan thing, and I were thinking might even get them to start here. And to be honest, I don't think after what's happened recent games you could have argued against it, but not to be involved. I like couldn't believe it. I didn't even know the players were like, ladies and gentlemen, Bojan. It's like it's coming. It's 6:30 and he's in Htown. It's like what?
Yeah, it was bizarre, bonkers to me that. But that, yeah, if you then actually we move on to the actual game itself, though. The first 15 to 20 minutes was arguably the best start, wasn't it? Really, Matt, maybe of the season so far. Town score, and they were playing on the front foot, and then that's where we're going to, end the positivity. And I'm going to go back to being Dom the Reaper.
Well, this is it, isn't it? I mean, after the last game against Stockport, Lee Grant made a little thing of it in terms of that he's not had much time on the grass. People say on the grass. I'm sure David Wagner invented that phrase because I'd never heard anyone say it before David Wagner came along. But he said he wanted more time on the training ground with those players because they've been pretty much Saturday, Tuesday. So he's not had a lot of time to implement his ideas and get things across to them, or not enough time anyway. He's been here a while. So I was quite looking forward to seeing what that extra week pertained to. And I thought the first 25 minutes was pretty good. I know Bolton came back into it, didn't they, at that point? But I thought generally the first half as a whole was relatively good from Town. I know, and I think Bolton were a lot better than their away form had suggested. We'd done that in the preview show, in the drive-in, and they've got quite a high XG rate, higher than us. They'd lost a number of away games where they missed a load of chances, and in the first half we started quite well. It's a decent corner from Ruskin, but it owes quite a lot to the Bolton defender falling over and leaving him free. And then he nicely cushions it in. And we'd heard a lot about how good Castledine was in the air, and we hadn't quite seen it as yet. And then that was the blue touchlight moment, wasn't it? Where it got the blue touch, etc. Where he gets up really well and cushions it into the corner. And after that, Alfie May has a shot as well, which hits Joe Taylor. It's flying into the net, hits Joe Taylor. And Bolton have a couple of their chances as well. They Marcus Force probably could do a little better maybe, and Lee Nichols saves one with his feet as well. And I thought it was quite a good game between two sides that looked up for it. And I was quite enjoying it the first half an hour. And the bit which we really highlighted, and the bit which is really frustrating me and Killer at the minute, and it really, really does our head in, is that two idiots like us are going on a YouTube show effectively, and we have a little tactics board, and we move our little pieces around on there, and we say, right, this is how the opposition will try and hurt us this week. And the last 3 weeks we've got it right, basically. And this is me and Killer, who basically watch a little bit of football, have a little bit of a background in some coaching, some scouting, etc. Not extensive. And then we can see how the opposition are going to hurt us and how we should kind of set up to counteract that. Town lined up exactly as we thought they would, but thought they shouldn't in terms of the left winger being narrow, because their right back was always going to come and hurt us, Dacres Cogley. That overlapping fullback was always going to do it. And after about half an hour, Bolton kind of finally realised that they don't really know what to do with the right back here. And we'll call him Cogley from now on, because I think he seems to have dropped that on FootMob. He started making those inroads. I thought Ruskin had a great game at left back. I thought he was really good. And I thought he did a really good job on Kosi Dewberry, who was their danger man. But as soon as Cogley started making those forward runs, Town's initial thing to do was to bring Kasumu over to look after him. And then that opened up a massive space in the middle. And then Sheehan was driving through into the centre of the park. And then all of a sudden, Bolton had the centre of the park. And that's how the game started to turn. Lee Grant realised this, and he did make changes, in-game changes, which we've been critical of before. He moved Ben Wiles to the left. And the reason he moved Ben Wiles to the left was because he was better at tracking coglier than what Alfie May was and what Castledine was, but it still didn't quite work. And then that opened up the space, and that's where all the chances came from for Bolton, the 2 for force. And Town started to really struggle with that. And I just think the setup again was probably not right in terms of Town's left-hand side. And we would have gone in the drive. We would have gone Rowan at left back and Ruskin left wing. And I know I hate Ruskin on the left wing, and it's almost slightly hypocritical, but it just felt like that way would have nullified them. And Bolton were much weaker down the other side. And Gooch had a good game as well at the other side. And it just, as soon as Bolton worked out how to hurt us, we didn't have a response to it. And that, I think, is the main issue, Dom, at the minute, is that as soon as someone realises, oh, this is how you get out of Huddersfield Town today, we're really slow to react to that. And rather than trying to counteract others, we try to focus on our strengths a little bit more than counteracting. And it just basically the games go away from us too much. And that was the frustrating thing, was we saw it before the game, we saw it during the game, and to be fair, Lee Grant tried a few things, but we never really counteracted that right-hand side. And then that was the catalyst for Bolton getting back into that game and hurting us.
And I felt sorry for Ruskin. Like you say, I thought he was one of Town's better performers on the night. And when you go deeper into analysing the match, it was, again, a peculiar decision to take him off, and that near the end, and that could also have cost Town, I think, too. But yeah, on that left-hand side, like they were getting so much joy throughout the first half, and it was still happening, after the break. I just thought it was too easy for Bolton to get down the sides of Town all the time, and there was not enough doubling up and protection. And I think that's a little bit of you're playing players out of position. You're asking Ben Wiles to do a job there. Is he comfortable doing it? Castledine, who I thought was excellent in the first sort of 20 minutes or so, was trying to be disciplined and do what he could. But I think we're overcomplicating things, and Town are playing players out of position, and you have to question the system. Is it the best system to for Town to get the best out of the players that they've got? And of course, I mean, the huge talking point is the use of Alfie May. Town tracked him for so long, missed out on him, as we know, last year. They brought him in 12 months later after he's got 20 plus goal contributions for Birmingham in helping them win the league. He's scored 20 goals plus in the last 3 years in League One. So he's been arguably the best striker, and Town aren't playing him as a number 9 and are playing him on the left or as a number 10. And we've seen him all across the front line, and he's scored only a couple of goals this season, and you wonder why. Well, it's obvious. And it goes back to what you and Killer regularly say on the podcast. They don't create chances, this team. And that second half was embarrassing for just the bereft of ideas, lack of creativity. And they were just so passive and just trying to sit back and soak up wave upon wave of Bolton attacking, and to try and see it out. And the game management wasn't there, and it should be with the players they've got. And I heard on Sky, actually, so the captain was on Sky, and what I found really disturbing was when he came out with and said, "Yeah, we were fine for 90 minutes. I'm sorry if that's fine. You can kiss goodbye to any chance of Town finishing in the top 6, never mind the top 2." And that's what the owner probably was expecting, a top 2 challenge this season. And Town do just look a million miles off competing for the prizes in this division. And we're only a quarter of the way through the season, and we shouldn't be saying that.
Away, which is why people are getting upset. I mean, on Alfie May, I kind of understand bits of it. For me, Joe Taylor is just not doing it when he starts. I was so frustrated with Joe Taylor. I find him really lazy. And I do struggle with him when he's playing up front by himself, because he spends half the time sort of huffing and puffing that he's not got the ball. Then when the ball goes to him, he's not ready for it. He stands offside quite a lot. But I get why he's frustrated, because he's not getting he's not been played to his strengths either. And with Alfie May, I think the problem is when Alfie May plays up front, he kind of gets a little bit isolated. But the issue is nobody runs past him when he's up front. So it kind of drops him a little bit deeper to try and run past the other striker. But Joe Taylor doesn't hold it up. So there's no time to kind of like run past him. I mean, a lot of Huddersfield fans...
I'm going to jump in though, Matt, and say that are we coming around to the conclusion that to get the best out of Joe Taylor and Alfie May, that you need Town have to play a front two, and it's one or the other alongside Charles Radulovic. Those are the strikers Town have got at the moment.
I don't think so. I think when you look at Alfie May last year at Birmingham, and there's a sort of a slight misconception I think about Alfie May, in that he's been the best striker the last 3 years. He wasn't last year. He played left wing for most of his time at Birmingham last year. He wasn't the top scorer last year. He was like 7th or 8th, somewhere around there. But his contributions were still good. But he was running past Stansfield. He was allowed to run past and run into areas whereby he was affecting things. He was running forward, effectively. He wasn't running backwards like he is at Town. And I think a lot of the problems are Alfie May likes cutbacks, balls to the box. He's stood up front. Harness, Castledine, Wiles do not run past him. So if these players are not running past him, then who's cutting the ball back for him? So he ends up a lot of the time dropping deeper and trying to chase and find things. And he's not been utilised properly. I almost said that in a Geordie accent then. He's not been utilised. But he's so when he's... And the way Lee Grant likes to play is with a pivot player in that a 3 behind the attack. And I think when Harness isn't on form, which he's not been for quite a while, Alfie May's like the only one he can really put into that area who will make things stick in the final third, and then everyone's supposed to run around him, but that doesn't happen either. And what I think Kosi, I'll bring you back in, because Grant talked against Stockport and against Bolton about the players being nervous. I mean, I don't think there's anything nervous to be about when there's barely anybody there, because he talks about the crowd and things. There's nobody there, and I know Town fans kind of those, I think at the minute, are a little bit sit and wait rather than go crazy and then try and cheer them on. And I get that, because it's been rubbish on it for 7 years. So we're in a situation where we turn up and go, right, come on, show us what you can do, and then we'll get behind it, which is fine. But the players just seem, like he says, in that second half, Town just became, straight from the first whistle, just became so passive the entire half. I thought the second half was a disgrace, to be honest. They were so passive. So and Ledson and Kasumu were as bad as anyone. I'm really struggling with Ryan Ledson at the moment. They just, like I say, and Town just kept getting deeper, deeper, deeper. And that goal was coming way before they actually got it. And Lee Nichols, I thought, was quite good up until maybe the last goal. But you could say, is there something in it, Kosi, do you think, with players being nervous? Because I think they're kind of scared to make a mistake. And when Grant says they want to win too much, I think what he means is they get a little bit nervous, and the decisions that they make tend to be a little bit more to do with preservation rather than being expansive and going forward, because you leave yourself exposed. And I think what he's trying to say is they're tightening up a little bit, and they're stopping going forward, and they're naturally getting back, and they're naturally sort of going back into a shape and being passive. And it kind of makes sense in a way if he says it like this. That's what they're doing, but there's no reason why they should be, because I don't understand where the pressure is. There's no pressure coming from the stands, and you 1-0 up in a game. The Town fans were fairly good after we went 1-0 up, and they were making a little bit of noise and encouraging them. So I didn't see any reason why they should go like that and be passive. And it can't be an instruction. It can't be, because he's basically saying it's not. But it's a bit baffling.
I think it's worrying more than anything, because we were saying that last season, but we were saying players were mentally scarred, and that's why, a lot of players, obviously, that were moved on. So we can't kind of, not that we liked it, but we could kind of get it, but I couldn't get this. And I think the worrying thing for me is this is what we saw after 3 days on the training ground, and a fantastic start to the game where we probably should have been 2-0. Like you said, Matt, I right behind that shot, and I think it were going in until it Taylor. But yeah, it was unbelievable. And you could see it kind of creeping in. I was kind of thinking first half needs to come for us, that whistle, because I thought they were getting on top without looking like they were going to create a lot and maybe go in front. But it was 100% like a 1v2 game. But when it's 10-10 at night and the guy puts the board up, you don't expect us to crumble like that. But it's no more than it deserved. That we were saying there before the pod, Matt, that all right, it was ridiculous how it happened and it should never have happened, blah, blah, blah. But over 95 minutes football, Bolton were the better side. My mate at half time was saying, oh, we've gone behind now. I says, no worries, mate. You just keep going. You're unlucky to be behind at half time. You've got every chance of winning this game. But I thought we'd show something a little bit maybe in the second half, and we just didn't, Matt. And I think the Ruskin thing you mentioned, Dom, the only thing in what it was bizarre substitution, but someone said I don't know how true it is, but that he was signaling to the bench that he wanted to come off. But if he wasn't, then that cost us the game, did that? And there were a couple of interesting tweets from Bolton guys, weren't they? Were just saying that like he had him in his back pocket, did Ruskin, but as soon as he went off, things changed. But no, honestly, Matt, that's the most disturbing thing for me. You looked at the crowd, all right, Thursday night, and that had a lot to do with the low numbers, but people were so fed up with that Stockport performance, then it's like they didn't go into the ground thinking, right, come on, this is going to be a great night's football. Everyone I spoke to was pretty much, God, it's going to be a tough night's watch, like it always is with Htown. But the great start, the 11 days rest, and it ended up as debacle like that. That's the most worrying thing for me, and I think for everyone really. It's like, well, there's just no excuses for that. And let's bear in mind, this team had not won an away game all season. And it's just like, I think another goal could have finished off. My mate is like massive Bolton fan. He goes home and away. Like, he says they'll turn on Schumacher tonight if you get an early goal. And we did. And he still lost. So it does, honestly, there's so many worrying things.
The Bolton's fans, Kosi, booed the team off at half time.
Yeah.
But to back up what you were saying about how Bolton deserved to win, the most damning statistics from the match, the total touches inside the opposition box. Htown had 9 compared to Bolton's 26. And so Htown are the home team. They've had 3 times as many entries into the box and touches, and so they absolutely dominated that second half. Htown had no answer. The midfield just went missing, I find it alarming some of the comments that Lee Grant has come out with in the last 2 matches. Like, the nervousness one doesn't wash with me when you look at the calibre of players that Htown have signed. It's a brand new squad, it's a brand new team, so that shouldn't be the case at all. And also, you shouldn't be getting nervous when you played 11 league matches in the season. And yes, the atmosphere is not great at home, but you know what? Oh yeah, play on the front foot and be aggressive. If Htown were playing an entertaining brand of football and were getting fans on the edge of the seats and giving them something to shout about, then you wouldn't get the flatness that we saw the other night and fans not turning up after that shower against Stockport. So, and then, again, after Bolton, sat in the press room and, he's telling us and he's questioning the mentality of the team. But that's your job as the manager to, again, galvanise this group. And you shouldn't be, questioning at this early stage in your tenure, have these players got it? Have they got the nous, the knowledge, the ability to go the distance? And these are all like warning signs to me of things are all not well. And we can see that in the results anyway. When you've gone 1 win from the last 7, like, the results have nosedived, but the performances have not been there. We've consistently said on this pod all season, Htown haven't played well for 25 minutes in a match this season. Never mind 45 and 90. It's inexcusable. Just you can't defend that, and that's on Lee Grant to be getting more out of this group, and he just isn't, and that's where the pressure's coming from.
Something else he mentioned as well. Or something Steven Schumacher, I almost call it. I'm so close to calling him Michael Schumacher every single time. But something Steven Schumacher mentioned again, and Kosi, you pointed it out, didn't you, in WhatsApp, about how Huddersfield Town will tire. Why were they so tired? I mean, Ruskin got a bit of a run around. I get that. Gooch has come back from injury. I get that. But they were more than that, just absolutely knackered after 60, 70 minutes. And I was just like, they're supposed to be fitter this year. They're supposed to be stronger. why were they absolutely goosed come the hour mark? What a lot of that I think is mental fatigue. But
I thought about the North Stand this year, so it's a weird view down that bottom of North Stand. Obviously, not for everyone and stuff, but that's just where it is for me this year because missing so many games with cricket. But it was so evident. It was just like Lowe were like hands on his hips and he were blowing hard, and then you were seeing people go down. And I think some of the Bolton guys were like they're doing it to time waste, but this would happen after about 65 minutes, and I'm thinking not. And then it looked like Alfie May were knackered. I remember sending a message on our group map saying May's done, and then he carried on, and then Ruskin went. We're looking, and it's bad. How bad is that? And then Schumacher, like I said, he was a bit cocky for him to say, but I suppose he could say it with position and strength, having won the game. But he were like, we knew that they'd tire after 60 minutes, and if that's a known thing, like, but we've noticed it for a few games, Matt. And I think the only thing sometimes that is thrown when you're not winning and stuff. A number of times I remember when Terry Harrop and Jacko's team were the fittest team everywhere, but before that they were the laziest team and all this stuff. But I just think like you could just see it visibly, mate, when they were getting corners and stuff. Bolton, it was just like you could see people blowing and struggling and frustrated. And yeah, I suppose when things aren't going well, you're drawn to this kind of stuff more. But a number of people, when I put a couple of tweets out on Thursday, were saying exactly the same. And so many Bolton fans were saying it, Matt. And that's bad, that, isn't it? When they only seen us like once in a blue moon. But honestly, 11 days fitness, I'm not expecting everyone to run around like Usain Bolt, but we were seeing stuff where people were getting skinned. But Gooch seems to be run out of gas. I suppose he's 32-3, but mate, they were scooting around him later on the last 15 minutes, but he just like didn't do all to change it, man.
Town had no control in that second half, though, and I thought they sorely missed Herbie Kane in midfield. You know, you had David Kasuma who just was turning the ball over. You know, and I'm a fan of David Kasuma, but he was poor the other night. And then you've got Ryan Ledson, who I'm afraid just goes missing in matches. And Town have already got one of those passengers in Ben Wiles, so you can't afford to have two in your engine room. And it's problems. It's just that it's like there's a lot of small. I was having a good chat with David Hartrick, friend of the pod, as we know, after the match, and he was right in what he said of where it's like lots of small problems Town have got with selection and on the tactical side and from Lee Grant's decision making in the games, and then they're adding up to like what we're then seeing in front of our eyes of where it's actually a lot of it's big problems. The small problems are turning into wider issues. But I just think that they look like a group of individuals. They haven't looked like a cohesive team all season.
Poor Lyndon Gooch has he's got the Tom Lees treatment from Kosi there. Kosi's added 4 years onto Lyndon Gooch's life there. He's only 29, poor Lyndon.
Where's that? Does that?
When we signed him, Kosi was adamant it was like 36 or something. He's got a strange accent, hasn't he, Lyndon Gooch? Every time he speaks, I'm expecting an American accent, but it's kind of like a mixed Irish Mackham kind of thing going on, isn't it? It's a really sort of funny accent. But I think what we'll do now, look at that, there's a red flashing button on our answering machine. So I think what we'll do is we'll go to the squad for the first time this evening. That we've had that many, that we've been inundated that much, we've had to actually go with splitting this into two. So whilst I press this, Kosi can sort his internet out because he's chopping all over the place. I dare say it's because he's streaming about 50 Spanish football games at the same time as being on the pod. So we'll play this now and then we'll come back to you in 5 minutes.
Hello. There is no one here to take your call, so for your convenience, we have answered it automatically. Now don't hang up. When you hear the tone, leave your name and a brief message, and we will contact you upon our return.
One of these right after the game where you're going to get one here. Absolute spineless. Play well for 20 minutes. Absolutely awful. Just defend. Having no shots in the second half. Absolute spineless. This is right after the bloody game. I don't know how much longer he's got left. Because that's just awful. Absolute spineless.
Hi, it's Kelly Ross from the Disabled Supporters Club, reacting to that sobering defeat. How was it last night? First half was good. First half, best first half of the season, possibly. But you know, this Htown team, maybe this football club, they can't do 2 halves of football. And second half, we just didn't do all the things that brought us success. We wanted to win it too much. Maybe we should not want to win it. Maybe that'd work. Because the second half was so poor, dropped off, let them get at us, and ultimately we conceded the equaliser, which is bad enough, but then don't learn from that, don't switch on, allow them to go and score a second, and ultimately we deserve to lose based on that second half. Alfie May is our new midfielder, and he's not a striker. We can all see that he's not a striker. And I'm not sure that it's going to be such a good season based on that. I do quite like Grant, and I do very much feel we need to build around the manager and give him time to learn. My worry is that won't happen. We'll have another season of churn and we won't get anywhere fast. But we'll still carry on supporting the town, won't we? That's it, I can't speak any more than that, and nothing else to say, is there really?
John McNamara here, Northern Ireland's most Panther man. I've been in a relationship with this football club for 21 years, which makes it the longest relationship I've ever had in my life with anything or anyone. And after the Stockport game a couple of weeks ago, I decided I needed to take a break like Rachel and Ross. I just couldn't face watching this team anymore, watch them do the same things that upset me over and over and over again. And with the game being a night game yesterday, I spent all day thinking, I'm not going to watch it, Sodom, no, I've moved on. I can't be doing it anymore. And of course, I came crawling back. I put the television on, and Htown played slightly better in the first half, but there were still some absolutely glaring issues with the shape and with our tactics. But I carried on watching, and in the second half, Bolton deserved it. And I actually found myself hoping that Bolton would score a couple of goals in that last 5 minutes, because I just didn't think it was fair that we shithouse our way and win that game, because we were absolutely dreadful. And our tactics looked like they were put together by my 3-year-old son. So when Bolton did score the first goal and the second goal, I wasn't surprised. I was just mildly annoyed. And going forwards, I can't watch this team anymore. I don't think I'll watch this team for the rest of the season. If they're on a Wednesday or a Thursday, might watch them, but on Saturdays I've got better things to do. There's just no point. So after 21 years, I'm putting in my divorce papers, and me and Huddersfield Town are done for the foreseeable. The only way I can see us reconciling is if that absolute idiot with a moustache, Kevin Nagel, leaves the club. I don't care if I'm saying his name right or wrong, but he needs to leave. Since he came in, he has made Huddersfield Town an absolute laughingstock of a football club. I was at a conference on Wednesday in the Republic of Ireland, and I was speaking to somebody about football, and he brought David Wagner on Huddersfield Town, and he said to me, "What the fuck has happened to your football club since then? What's happened?" And all I could really say, because I didn't have the time, was Kevin Nagel. Kevin Nagel has come in and destroyed Huddersfield Town Football Club.
2 years up here, reflecting on down against Bolton. Woke up this morning thinking, did that really happen? Did I dream those 2 late goals? That can't happen. So, I mean, first half, I thought we were pretty good. Definitely started well. So I went in at half time thinking, and then we sort of shooting towards the end where I was sat second half thinking, I'm going to see a bit of action this half. We're going to have a bit of sustained pressure, go for a second goal. Of course, we didn't do that. I did think that sort of Nicholson, the centre-back pairing, for the most part, looked quite composed and in control of the game. And they were playing out all right. And then just that late collapse, bad enough conceding the first one. What on earth were they doing for that second goal? Was it Ledson just kicks off, just puts the ball, gives them the ball straight back? It's just absolutely crazy. What can you say about that? But I just think Grant continuously picking Ledson is not doing us any favours. Like, he's supposed to be the captain, Did you see him fronting up after the game interview? I've never seen him do an interview after a game. I've never seen him take responsibility for anything. And I think that's a really big issue. One of many big issues that Lee Grant has over the next couple of weeks, you'd think.
The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
There we go. That's phase one of our voicemails. And do you know what? I've not vetted any of these voicemails, so people could be saying anything this week, and I've not had time to go through them all. So I've taken a leap of faith in everybody that they're going to be
The
nice.
thing is, though, Matt, it's like you can't blame anyone because let's analyse what happened. At 10-10, we were winning the game. At 5-10, we lost the game. That's a disgrace. It made me think when was the last time we did it, and we popped a few questions, didn't we, when we turned it? You remember the 4-3 or something against Walsall?
Yeah, I remember 4-3 against Walsall, where they were down to 10 men and Troy Deeney scored a couple for them. And then in injury time, Lee Novak and Anthony Kay got winners in the 90-plus. But I can't remember us doing 2 goals in injury time. Apart from once we played Brentford at home, and I remember we beat them 3-2, and we're losing 2-1 going into the last minute. There was a Nathan Clark long throw in which Boothie flicked in. And then I think Danny Schofield might have got the winner in that one. I think they were both past the 90, but other than that, I don't think I've seen Huddersfield Town do that in 35 years.
I still bang on about that McAllister one, but he scored for 85 that, so I must have walked out very early that Scunny game, but yeah, I mean, I know we shouldn't say because we're Huddersfield Town podcast, but there's the limbs on that, as you would do, because you've given it up, haven't you? There'll be people that had gone home from Bolton, but it was absolute carnage, and the second goal was comedy, though, wasn't it, from us? There were people rushing back, there were big holes and everything, and it was just like horrible. I mean, obviously I'm at totally the wrong end, but as soon as he hit it, Nichols looked, I just thought it's going in, is this in it? And it just went nuts, man. And wow, it's such a body blow, that in it. And what you don't want is a trip to your ex boss who was sacked in March away, do you, in your next game to try and get the show back on the road. And honestly, it's we've seen Postecoglou shall we say, being manhandled out of the Forest dugout.
I'm going to so you're chopping in and out a little bit. Your internet's still chopping in and out. Dom, there's one player I wanted Huddersfield to get in the summer was a guy called Chris Dalby because I thought Town needed a difference maker in attack. I quite like Alfie May, I quite like Joe Taylor. But sometimes you need a little bit of brute force. Sometimes you need to go over teams as well as through them. And when Chris Dalby came on, he was someone I highlighted in the preview show that I thought if he got onto Joe Lowe, I thought he would give Joe Lowe a lot of problems. But as it turned out, it was Feeney that struggled with him on that goal. But I actually thought that was a really good goal from Bolton. They worked it really well. The cross was good and the header was brilliant. I don't blame Feeney at all for that. I just thought it was a good header from a big striker who's, when he gets going, I think he'd be good for Bolton.
I know you meant Sam Dolby, but he was like you say, he was doing what we would like someone in the Town squad to be doing, and to have a player like that in attack just as a point of difference, and they just don't have a focal point. I've banged the drum about it all season long, and I haven't changed my mind of where, I'm not asking Town to play with target man every single week. But you need, in this league, I really do think you need to have a big physical bruiser just as someone to give you an option to go direct and to go long. And Radulovic, when you're saying he's as close as Town have got to that, I don't think it's really a recipe for success. And on the goal, Mikael Miller, great to see him back, get some minutes. He didn't go out and engage quick enough. He was too slow to stop the cross coming in. And maybe Ruben Ruskin, if he'd still been on the pitch, Kosi, he may be right, what he said before, he potentially could have had a knock, and that's the reason it went off. But yeah, the cross, it was too easy to swing it in. And up to that point, I think Feeney was up there for man of the match for me. I thought, I thought him and Lowe were very good, but then they both, for the goals, didn't cover themselves in glory. I don't blame Feeney for the equaliser, though. Yeah, I thought it was good centre forward play. And he'll learn. And you've got to remember that he is a young centre half, and he'll make errors, and he will get physically stronger as well. The more matches he plays, and the more experience he gets, more minutes under his belt, and everything. So, yeah, that's all part, I think, of his learning curve. But for Town right now, we need players with who are more maybe the finished article is what we expected, I think, this season. And there were areas for all of that equaliser where Town, they could have done better. It was avoidable, and it felt soft. I'll let you and Kosi go first on the winner.
We'll skip that, I think. But do you know what was interesting? When they scored the equaliser, just before he put the ball in, Lee Grant was going mad at the linesman for something. I've seen like Bolton have got like the camera angle that goes down the touchline, and that's basically that faces Schumacher and everyone. And you can see Lee Grant in the background just go mad at the linesman for something just before the ball goes over. And then never does anything after. I was trying to work out what he's going mad at, but I had absolutely no idea what he was going mad at. But yeah, that was 100% coming. The winner, I mean, Town have kind of tried to put a few men forward and then lost the ball. I thought Ledson and Kasumu were the root of quite a lot of our problems in terms of ball retention. Kasumu, I thought, broke lines okay a few times with some runs. He was okay as well, trying to winning the ball. Ledson played a few nice passes here and there, but I think my issue with Ledson really is I think it's a perception one. I thought when I saw him for Preston, he was flying around midfield, kicking the crap out of people. The guy that ended Tommy Elphick's career pretty much. He was flying in and really sort of a little bit of a crazy little midfielder who was kicking anything that moves. He doesn't move for Town. He never really gets around, and I think that's where I'm struggling with him. Some of his passing's a little bit better than I thought it was, but he just doesn't get around that midfield and close and shut things down. I don't know whether that's an instruction or whether he just can't do it anymore. And I know he's only 20.
Matt, I forgot he was even playing in the first half. He was totally innocuous, and he wasn't much better in the second half. But I just can't. For me, when you've been outplayed in the second half, I just can't get my head around of why I committed so many bodies and players forward, and you just think, hold on to a point. You don't suffer back-to-back defeats. Don't lose to two promotion rivals, teams that you expect to, at home in front of your own fans. Just take the point and move on. At least you stop the loss at Harrogate as well with a much changed team. You don't lose 3 in a row, and that's just game management. And that's where I have sympathy for Lee Grant, as that can't have been an instruction after the equaliser goes in, and where he's telling, let's just throw loads of bodies forward and we're trying to get a winner. The senior players on the pitch, you can't. Big teams, good teams, they don't do what Town did. You don't capitulate like that. You don't concede a goal on that manager. And also, if it's to come through the heart of the defence, to go slice them right through like that, I mean, that's just totally not on. I mean, you wouldn't see that in Sunday League. I really don't think you would. Right at the death when it's 1-1.
Didn't see my team, to be fair, did you, Dom? You probably would. Probably wouldn't if you didn't see mine. But I mean, I think moving on, cause we listened to the squad, and you can hear the pain in Johnny McNamara. Johnny McNamara used to be Terrier Blog, people may remember, and he did that awful singing video with him singing East 17 to David Wagner, which I will bring up every now and then to him. He's pretty much gone from looking like Harry Potter to Lord Voldemort, so that's why he gets called Lord Voldemort sometimes from me on the pod. But he kind of encapsulates quite a lot of frustration in there. And do you know what? I made the decision. I said on our last podcast that I was just not going to go to midweek games anymore because I'm falling out of love with it, and I am massively. And it's strange because I've seen worse. I've seen us worse, but I don't think I've seen us promise so much and deliver so little. And I think that's what's disheartening at the minute. I know I want Lee Grant to do well. I want Htown to do well. But I'm struggling mentally with it, going and watching it. And it makes a lot of people miserable, does this? And we've had a really slim 7 years, and some people say there's worse. Bury have had it worse. Oldham had it worse until they came back. And I made the decision at midnight on Wednesday / Thursday midnight that I was going to go. I wasn't going to go up until midnight, and then I was like, right, I'll go. I had to sort of take my son Charlie goes to gymnastics for 3 hours on a Thursday. He has a massive mammoth gymnastics session, and it's the other side of Leeds. So I emailed them and said, right, he's not going, which is expensive for me. I'm going to go to watch the football. And he was quite pleased with that because he hates the 3 hour gymnastics sometimes. But and as soon as halfway through the second half, I really regretted my decision to do that, and I didn't want to be there. I think halfway through the second half, before we were losing, I just didn't want to be there. It was just, you could just see what was coming. You could just see the passive nature of us, and I just hated what I was watching. I really don't want to sit and watch that. And sometimes you have to sit through the bad times to really enjoy the good times, etc. But we feel like we've seen that many bad times now, and we're paying more to watch the bad times than what we were. That I just don't want to sit there and watch that anymore. And after the game, I was like, I might not go until Christmas now. I'm not going to any away. Me and Tom, my mate, we were going to go to Wickham to watch Htown at Wickham. No chance. There's absolutely no chance we're going there now. Mansfield in the Virtue Trophy. Nah, I'm not going to that. And there's so many games now where we would have gone to without thinking about it, and now we're just like, nah, we can't. And it's not that we're rubbish fans, maybe we are, but it's not that. It's just that you can't face the disappointment. I can't cope with waking up the next day after a Huddersfield game, and you have that moment where you're waking up, don't you, where you don't really 100% realize what's going on. You're still waking up, but I'm waking up feeling angry, and I'm like, why am I so angry? And then it's like, oh yeah, the football. I'm literally waking up angry the night after or the day after a Huddersfield Town game. And the reason why we're probably a little calmer on this podcast than what we were after the Stockport one is that Killer's not here to rage bait me, for one. But secondly, we've given it an extra day. So the game was on Thursday night. We're recording on a Saturday night. We've had that extra day whereby we can maybe be a little bit more analytical about things without going too emotional. But if we'd have done this podcast Thursday, Friday night, I would have gone absolutely apeshit at it. And now on Saturday, I'm starting to feel apathetic. And it's the apathy which is dangerous for Huddersfield Town, where football fans just go, do you know what? I can't be arsed anymore with this. And that's the dangerous point. And that's where Huddersfield got to under Ken Davey. And that's where things were going really wrong until Dean Hoyle had to step in. He had to step in because I remember him saying when Huddersfield lost 2-1 at home to Southend in League One, that people were walking out not bothered, and they were sort of saying the same sort of things. Maybe we're not going to go next week. I can't be bothered going away. And he just said, and I remember him saying he thought that was wrong, and people weren't happy to be there anymore. And the cycle's happening again. And I'm not saying we need Dean Hoyle to come and save us, although it'd be nice. But we're in a situation now where fans, the anger's kind of disappearing a little bit. And apathy's coming in, and that apathy is so dangerous for the football club. And I don't think the people at the top really get it, in all honesty. I don't really want to turn this into a pop at Kevin Nagle, because I think he's spending a lot of his money, and a lot of people stick up for him. But the decision making at the top isn't the best. And we can move on to Lee Grant if you like, but I'm struggling with giving a bloke who's never managed a football game in his life full football autonomy. I've said this a few times on the podcast, full scope, and also not bringing in any coaches. And I've seen Mark Bridge-Wilkinson coach, by the way. He's a brilliant coach, a phenomenally good coach. Honestly, he's so good. But I haven't seen the other guy. I can't comment. But to not bring in anyone who's experienced as well with him, whereby Lee Grant's watching that second half and you can see him scratching his head a little bit. And it's at this point where at Ipswich they had, I can't remember the guy who was the coach at Ipswich, but he was kind of late 40s. He's the guy who sort of pops over, puts the arm on the shoulder and sort of says, this is happening over there that we need to sort out. And it's the bit where Lee Clark had Derek Fazackley and Terry McDermott as well, if you want to change it that way. Peter Jackson had Terry Yorath, etc. And you just feel like we've gone all in on Lee Grant, who may turn out to be a really good coach. He's struggling at the minute, and I hope he turns it round. But he doesn't have the help either. There's no director of football in place. There's no experience in the coaching staff. And you just think
Yeah, but Matt, to interrupt, that might have been why Lee Grant accepted to take the job in the first place. That he wanted assurances that he was going to be the manager and that he would have a big say on recruitments and be heavily involved with Lee Mabry and everyone else that's behind the scenes. And then Kevin Nagle, and between him and Jake Edwards, they may have also decided that after a couple of years of Mark Cartwright failing spectacularly when it comes to recruitment, that they want to go in a different direction and that they don't want to appoint a director. I'm with you, by the way, on that, and that I do think that is a gap at the football club that needs filling in the next 12 months to 18 months. I don't feel as if. Well, I just don't feel as if the manager. Yeah, I don't feel as if a rookie manager should have been put in this position. I agree with you also on. I would have liked Lee Grant to have come in with somebody who could have helped sort of take the pressure off and pass, experience on, and it would have been better, I think, than a Mark Bridge Wilkinson and Paul McShane and the other people that he's brought in. But Lee Grant, for all we know, may have had a major say in who he wanted, and maybe he didn't want to bring in somebody that has been around the block and he just wanted it.
But again, do you let a rookie, like you say, a rookie pull the shots? And I don't know. It's guessing, and it just feels at the minute. It just feels there are games whereby you just analytically, me and Killer can see things happening before, or it feels like we can see things happening before others can, and that's just wrong. You know what I mean?
I think they'd be aware of, again, like the strengths and weaknesses, but it's more that what is alarming, worrying from a Town point of view is that they're not reacting then to in game. They're not seeing it and they're not making decisions quick enough. And I just think it's really sad what you were saying before, Matt. And I think you're totally right that a lot of Huddersfield fans and Kosi might feel exactly the same, where you feel as if the enjoyment's gone and it's becoming a chore to watch Huddersfield Town, and that is not good. And I don't care that was on Sky the other night on a Thursday, and it's we're coming out of an international break, and it's Bolton. It's one of the more local matches. They had a packed away end. And by the way, on that point, their away fans, what a difference they made to the outcome as well. They drove their team on. I thought they were magnificent. And Town fans actually reacted and picked up the atmosphere, improved, didn't it, in the second half? But I thought Bolton fans I thought they were top class the other night. When they really drove the team on and helped them. But yeah, I mean, for Kevin Nagle to pump so much money into the football club, and you can only be impressed with what he's done around the stadium, Htown, the great package that Kosi did earlier, and everything else in the stadium, that he's now bought, and that's going to generate loads of revenue for Town in the future. All really great, but the product, the main product on the pitch, and it comes back to 2.5 years nearly of Kevin Nagle being in charge. He hasn't got footballing decisions right. He hasn't, from recruitment to the managers, and he's now gone all in on a rookie boss. And frankly, he could get rid of Lee Grant tomorrow, Matt and Kosi. What faith would Town fans have on him getting the next appointment right based on the track record? Because I wouldn't have very much at all.
There to help anyway, which is another gaping hole. And do you know what? On Mark Cartwright as well, his recruitment got slated. The person who put the names in front of Mark Cartwright is still there. So that's
and I've said it before on the pod though, Matt, that it's still Kevin Nagle that signs the checks, and it's still him. And and so the buck stops with him. It does, and so you really want it to work. As I do think that what Kevin Nagle is trying to do off the pitch, I am seeing the green shoots there, but you want to see it on the pitch, and for punters, for him, he's only been there for a couple of years, and to get such a low crowd the other night, that's not good. That's Town fans not believing in what you're trying to create, and you've got to try and galvanise and energise this fan base, to turn public opinion around of where like as you said, Town fans are just in this cycle of doom and gloom, and it's really only been going one way since the Premier League era, and there's just no sign of things turning around on the pitch quickly.
Town fans need a good front man because they don't like all rock bands. They need a good front man, don't they? They love. Town fans will get behind and love a manager who's energetic and passionate. And Lee Grant, I'm not saying he's not that, I guess, but they love David Wagner, they love Peter Jackson, they love Neil Warnock. Those characters. Didn't love Carlos Corberán, despite him probably being maybe the pick of them all. If you look at the entire records, apart from maybe Warnock, but they love that. They love Dean Hoyle, who fronts up at Canalside, and you can ask him questions. They love Sean Jarvis, who was quite active, and look, these guys aren't maybe not the, I don't know if they are the best at the jobs or not, but they love people who are there, front, centre, and accountable. And Jake Edwards is quite quiet. He goes about his business quite quiet, which then draws questions as to what Jake Edwards does. I mean, Jake Edwards is a CEO; he does quite a lot of stuff. But the club are quite quiet, aren't they, in terms of leadership? And Kevin Nagel does tweet, and I think sometimes when he tweets, you kind of wish he hadn't, if you like. But sometimes in his diaries, you do get little bits and pieces and nuggets out of it, which are quite interesting. And
I'd say that's slightly unfair. I would stick up for Kevin Nagel that if you actually look last year, pretty much every time he would come over to watch Town, I would regularly see him doing an interview with Radio Leeds or Stephen Chicken. So I'm not sure I'd entirely go along with that. I think and then we saw quite a few video diaries. The video diaries have noticeably dried up in the last few months since
they have. But did you get anything out of those?
No. But I never enjoyed them anyway. I think for me personally, I think it's totally unprofessional. No other football club no other club in League One, and I can't think of another EFL club that has an owner doing a video diary like that. And there's a reason for it. That to me, you should from the off. That's where I think sometimes the communication, Kevin Nagel for me has gone wrong, of where. He should be in house. Like that should be the media team. That should be controlled.
Really good in August when he came over in August, and they did it through the club channel. I thought that was good. But I mean, in terms of leaders, what I'm saying is that there's leaders across the board, and I sometimes think Town need.
I think Jake Edwards does speak well, Matt. From when he does do press, but he doesn't do. But he doesn't. He's not. Yeah, but that's it. I mean, but I would say in his role, it should be less really that we hear from him, and it would be if Town had a sporting director or director of football, it would really be that person after Kevin Nagel and the manager. Well, those are the three we should be hearing from regularly. Whereas I would say, arguably, a chief exec. If you look at most clubs, I think up and down the land, they don't give too many interviews. You might get a couple a year, I think. I'm only going off my experience from on the panel.
Maybe we've been spoiled because that doesn't happen. But
Dean Hoyle was a one-off though. Yeah, I agree. Dean Hoyle though, you could pick up the phone to him at any time. If you had a good relationship, and I did for a long period of where I would talk to Dean Hoyle, and he was great for that. He'd always, even if he was busy, he'd always say, "Yeah, ring us back later. Well, I'll give you 5 minutes or 10 minutes now." And so I do feel actually Kevin Nagel has tried to do what he can with the local media. He did something with the Athletic as well the other day about the stadium, and again his grand vision for the future. But it's about short term now, of where you desperately need to get out of League One and get back into the Championship because you've spent millions the last 2 years, and so you can't afford to fail. And so this is where it's on a knife edge, isn't it? With Lee Grant right now, if things don't pick up, he's going to have a decision to make. But we saw at the end the reaction, and we saw, didn't we, that fans. It looks like fans are starting to turn, and we said before, didn't we, that the pod even started. When fans start to turn, it's really difficult to then win them around.
When that goal went in, you should be wanting to rip seats out. You should be wanting to go on the pitch like them Oldham fans did today. You should be wanting to do something, because that's unacceptable. There was nothing. The people just walked out. And that's the big worry for me. This were billed as a reset. This were billed as a big chance. This Northern football bollocks that was sold to us. People believe in that stuff, whether they're naive or not, just because we spent some money. People were tapping into that. That came from Nagel. Stupid. Northern football. Lee Grant were telling us on an interview what we were going to do, how we were going to play. There's been no evidence of that in his first 11 to 15 games, including some of these cup games and that as well. And you know what? People have paid more money than for a long time to watch Htown, and they weren't even there. They were not even there. And it's such a worry. This big reset, and it feels like Grant's lost that. To be honest, a 3-0 defeat at Wycombe next Saturday, what do you think you're going to wake up to on Sunday? I think we all know. And it's bad, but I don't think we could afford to get this wrong. And when you look at the division today, there's, Cardiff have kind of scrambled in, but teams are bumbling about. Luton are making a bollocks of stuff. There's other teams doing it in that as well. So to me, it's there for the taking. But like you said earlier on, Tom, we haven't seen for 45 minutes football, never mind like 90 minutes. We haven't seen anything. And you want to see leaders, you want to see people passion. Johnny Ogg, for his critics and past it and blah, 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 he was someone you knew what you were going to get from him. And he was someone you could kind of associate with the club. I'm looking around now. Justlow might be a good player and a good leader, but Ledson, there's no one you can cling on to. Who's your poster boys? Who's your men? Who's your proper terriers? Like we started the programme with Jimmy Nicholson, a proper town man. Who's there now? There's no one, and Alfie May's trying his best, shouting at people, getting frustrated because it's a total mess. And honestly, I hate sacking people and changing things and stuff, but I'm always one for experience, me. But it was a brave move. But at the moment, you've got to say that a heavy defeat at Wycombe next Saturday, and I think he's gone. I think he is toast.
Eventually, the club, as you've regularly said, Matt, have got to stop sacking managers, and they have to stick with someone that they believe in. And they have gone all in on Lee Grant, and but you have to just judge it off like the body of work and what we've seen. And Kosi's totally right. We haven't seen anywhere like near enough. I think it's also worth reminding everyone that Lee Grant wasn't first choice. It was Ruben Sellers. That was who Htown wanted. And funnily enough, then we see how it worked out at Sheffield United with the better quality players he was working. But I can tell you for a fact, I saw a lot of Ruben Sellers when he was in charge at Hull. That football wouldn't have been really pleasing on the eye either. And I think that's what makes it harder to take right now, is that Htown, if you're not getting the results and you're playing the way Htown are, it's a toxic combination.
You're not enjoying anything, are you? That's the thing. You're not enjoying the result, the performance.
You're not enjoying the journey. You're not enjoying anything, and so
you enjoy Htown though.
It's just like last year though. We had a great start, and it's all gone Pete Tom, but we haven't had that Bolton false dawn yet again. But maybe that Exeter with a false dawn like the Bolton one was. But it is. Honestly, you could not make it up, could you, next week? Michael Duff's going to be there waiting with his carving knife, isn't he? He's going to be waiting, mate. Honestly, it's the worst possible game we could have.
Lee Grant should be saying for next week or so that he should be saying that Bolton was rock bottom. That has to be. He's got to say, almost the season starts now, and we get a positive result.
What are you on about on Thursday night? I get he's under pressure, but his interviews pre and post match, even not on game days, are gibberish, mate. They're rubbish. They're talking in absolute tangents and stuff. I don't get what he's doing.
He talks a lot. Again, I think he's a really nice man. I've got no doubt. I think he's a very good coach. But yeah, at the moment, it's like we're getting a lot of words and we're not getting enough action. That's the way it feels. And yeah, I think Htown fans are beginning to turn off to it's the clarity, and there's a lot of sort of execution, and it's those buzzwords. I think that Htown fans are getting a bit sick of, and this is where if you haven't got the money in the bank, if you haven't got that credit in the bank, then it's just like Htown fans. I think we've we've seen that many managers that come through the door where I think that's again where you just sort of turn off, don't you?
Dom, do you think the players are there for top two? This is the debate. I think we're missing pieces in the jigsaw still, mate. I don't know about you. I think maybe fifth or sixth at best would be a good coach. What's your thoughts on that?
I thought that Htown had after you sign 14 players, I thought that most of the pieces were there, other than the target man. But I'm not convinced now, actually, Kosi, that if a new manager were to come in next week, that he would get maybe a bounce, but I still look at it and think that they're short in a few areas. And it's crazy to be saying that when you think of the turnover that Town have had. And I didn't think I'd be saying that in mid-October. Didn't think I'd be saying that at all.
Okay, let's move it on slightly. So, in other news, Alan Lee, remember him? Took 20. He went 25 games without scoring and scored in his 26th game against Arsenal a £750,000 signing of an Irish striker. Roll forward 15 years. Dion Charles has finally beaten that record. He's gone 26 games without scoring. And you do feel a little bit for Dion Charles. He's not without trying. Things just aren't happening for him really at the minute. He's missed a penalty and all that. He's missed a couple of chances. Kosi, you asked a question to the other podcast. That's what they
and they said,
to us as.
Is his race run at Huddersfield Town? And they said, yeah. And then next thing is coming on with half an hour saviour. But you know what, mate? I don't know. I had a great view of it, but it was absolutely pathetic. He tried to cheat with a Bolton centre half, and he rolled around holding his face. It was pathetic. It was like WWE, Matt, what you watch. And he rolled about, and the ref were brilliant. It's like, bollocks to that, we're playing up, we're carrying on, Bolton were flying up. And then he was like, he rolling around, like, someone shouted, Dion, you better get up, mate. They're attacking Bolton. And he walked up. I just thought that about sums up his contribution in a Town shirt. Absolutely pathetic and incredible. I know we've spoken already that Bojan would have made much more impact, but it's a signing we never needed. The signings was barely played, and it's sad, mate. But Dion Charles,
it's not working, is it?
No.
In other news, Town women lost to Leeds United at the stadium. It was good to see Town women there. Town women looked like they were the better side for most of it, and I think the Leeds
mate, but they didn't bring any changes, and he just let the game fritter away, mate. So never mind men's manager, mate. That women manager. Shocking. So just like Leeds had all the chances. Town were just like kind of happy for 0-0. Any big game this year kind of being found wanting. I think, maybe we could do a change in the women's head coach as well.
Controversy there. This week on Monday, our Peter Clark interview, our Cult Heroes episode 10 with Peter Clark will be out on www.takesthatchance.com. So make sure that you sign up to the website, and then on Monday, you will be able to see a 2-hour interview with Peter Clark. There's a lot of good stuff in there with him as well. You'll find out the answer to who was the 5th penalty taker against Bournemouth in the playoff. His story about why he was so upset after Old Trafford. And there's lots of other good stuff in there. And just from a really, really, really top human being as well, which is fantastic.
Matt, what a guy. I'll never forget, just as a taster for this, I think it was 4 days after the Old Trafford, there were a HTSA meeting in Ravensthorpe. I don't know why we'd go there, like there were a pub or something, but we were in there. And I thought, there's no way Peter Clark's going to go there 4 days after the bit at Old Trafford. And he were there, and he were hurting, and he were nearly crying. He were upset, but he said, we will get it right, and we will get promoted. And that, obviously, the rest is history. But honestly, what we'd give for some of that kind of attitude now, and honestly, mate, he's 43 years old, isn't he? I think, is it 1,000 games? Incredible.
No, I had 47 in Kosi numbers, but you know, he is.
Never been good.
He is 43 and still going, and he still looks pretty good when you see the highlights as well. Boys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll in the number 2, the second helping of our Andy Takes That Chance squad and their comments, and then we're going to fade to black and cut out. So, boys, thank you very much for joining us on the pod. Dom, the Dom Reaper, I'm sure we'll win another game and get you back on at some point. I'm sure we will.
See it National League, Dom.
It's got to stop. It's got to end at some point.
Kosi, enjoy the last remaining minutes of Atletico Madrid.
They just scored, mate. We've seen a goal. Yeah. But they're 1-0 up. There's 20 minutes to go. They're at home. What could possibly go wrong?
and that's it. So thank you guys. Remember, Peter Clark interview, www.takesthatchance.com. Sign up to the free tier and you will get that in your inbox on Monday.
Hello. There is no one here to take your call, so for your convenience, we've answered it automatically. Now don't hang up. When you hear the tone, leave your name and a brief message, and we will contact you upon our return.
Hey, it's Jerry Hennon. So we've heard multiple times during the Kevin Nagel era that they can't afford to get a managerial appointment wrong. Can't afford to get a managerial appointment wrong. And after shoving Neil Warnock out the door, after sacking Darren Moore, after parting ways with Andre Breitenreiter, after sacking Michael Duff, after John Worthington didn't work out, the Lee Grant appointment was one that truly, they could not afford to get that wrong. And watching that second half against Bolton, where Htown played like relegation fodder, they played like a Northampton or an Exeter that know they can't actually play football against Bolton and have to just hold on to a result by their fingernails, even though they're at home, even though they've signed all these players. It felt like they got the managerial appointment wrong. And I've defended Lee Grant. I've pointed out that his team at Htown this year have produced many good defensive displays. They produced offensive displays that were good enough. And you assume at some point they'll put those two things together and they'll be very good. But they haven't. They're going the opposite direction, where now neither the defensive nor the attacking displays are good enough against Stockport and not against Bolton. It was a managerial appointment they couldn't afford to get wrong, because you can't just keep stacking managers over and over again. That's not how successful football clubs are run. But watching those two games, it looks like they've gotten the managerial appointment wrong, and I'm very worried about where things go from here.
Hey up, it's Terrier Jack. I'm still pissed off after that shit result. With the laughing stock of the EFL at the moment, we've got Northampton posting about something Matt Glennon said, showing a highlight of them scoring against us. Everyone's just laughing at us again, and I don't understand what Grant's even doing anymore. I don't understand why he said after the match that we just wanted to win too much. That's why we had one shot in the second half and about 30% of the ball. That's why we had, 11 men defending a corner in the 50th minute. We just wanted to win too much, clearly. That's why we shat the bed from scoring the first goal and pretty much just sat back for the rest of the game. We've got Joe Taylor who's running like he's playing in bloody concrete or something. I just don't get it anymore. I don't understand what's going wrong, because before that game kicked off, you've got Bolton fans looking at their lineup and going, oh God, this is awful. This is a disgrace. He should be sacked. And then we've just rolled over after scoring a goal. We've got worse after scoring. I don't understand it. What's Lee Grant said at half time? What's he told them to go and just fucking shit the bed? I just can't understand anymore what's going on. Why is Alfie May in midfield? Why is he having touches everywhere in the pitch, apart from in the fucking box? I really, really cannot understand anymore. And Lee Grant, and I wasn't really keen on the appointment in the first place. I thought it was a big risk with the rebuild that we had to do and the complete lack of trust between the fan base and the players hating the fans and the fans hating the players. I thought it was just a huge unnecessary risk when we don't have director of football, and what do you know, it's blown up in our faces. Where do we turn now? We've got no director of football. We've got no one who wants to really touch us, because we can't stop sacking managers years ago. But the one time where we probably should sack a manager, we can't, because no one actually wants us. We've got Ryan Ledson, who I don't even know what Ryan Ledson does. What does he do on a game? I don't understand. I'm sick of it. Sick of this club. Can't be arsed. I'll see you next week.
What's up, guys? Aiden here. I actually didn't get to watch this match as it came on while I was at work, but maybe you guys want to hear the perspective from someone who didn't see that rubbish ending that happened. It just feels like that's the nail in the coffin for Lee Grant. I don't know how you come back from that. I don't know how he wins the fans over again after what just happened today. I don't get it at this point with Nagel. If it's true that he said that Grant has 4 games left, I don't know how true that is, but if he did tell him that, it might as well just be 1 game left, because it's clearly not going to work out when you pile that pressure onto him. And yeah, it's just sad to see what looks like another failed manager and what looks to be the cycle of failed managers continuing at Huddersfield Town. And I just don't exactly know how it stops or how we get someone in who is able to tolerate the way that we run things here. Right now it seems like it's being ran to the ground, to be completely honest. So the possibility of us attracting a serious manager who's going to turn everything around, I think, is pretty slim, unfortunately.
Colin from Manchester here. I'm at a loss really with what to kind of say about Town at the moment. I think I feel like a lot of fans have probably gone through these waves and kind of keep coming back every season, but I just feel completely apathetic towards the club. We've got another manager that is not making the most of the squad at his disposal. I felt a bit sorry for Michael Duff last season in the end because of ultimately injuries of what kind of hurt him. But this manager he's easily one of the best squads in the division at his disposal, and we cannot play football for the life in us. We've got midfielders that don't want the ball. One of them's our captain, who, a little bit like Jonathan Hogg last year, has a really bad habit of dragging the entire team deep. Doesn't seem to want the ball. And then we're too narrow in the three above us. We finished last night with a left back and a striker in central midfield, which is make sense. We take Ruskin off, who would mark their winger out of the game, who then goes on and scores. I think it's quite telling. I feel like Grant is massively out of his depth and has not got enough experience in his managerial team to help him out at the moment. But in his post-match interview, my Bolton supporting mate texted me afterwards saying, "Your manager sounds out of his depth." And I think that's probably the sign. I don't know where we go from here, in all honesty, but I don't trust our owner and his leadership team to pick another manager because they failed in every single other appointment.
Hi everyone, Alex here. First time commenting post-match, although it's Saturday evening, and I am still absolutely fuming from Thursday evening's performance. I just don't really know where we're going as a club anymore. Grant, I don't think sacking him is going to help the situation. As I messaged into Matt and the lads last week, who in the right mind is going to touch us? He needs an old head at the side of him. The two youth team coaches who are meant to be his assistants clearly provide nothing. Or he just doesn't listen to them because he'll be that stubborn. Yeah, I'm just lost for words still, nearly 48 hours after the match itself.
The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So Town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So Htown, play up, we'll bring the cup back to Huddersfield.